Hello everybody and welcome back to A British Citizen Complaining About Britain. My name is Evan Edinger and recently I've been on the hunt to buy a property in London and oh my god, can it get confusing. Now the UK offers a couple different schemes in order to help potential buyers to jump up onto the property ladder, but a lot of them are so convoluted that they're really hard to get your head wrapped around. And so through all of my research, I thought I'd compile all the knowledge I've acquired through my hunt for this information and provide them to any of you potential buyers who are hoping to buy in one of the world's most expensive cities. Also, by the way, today's video is sponsored by a company I've worked with for over 3.5 years, Epidemic Sound. You'll hear more about them at the end of the video. So the first scheme we're gonna be talking about today, I'm sure most Londoners have heard of at this point, that is available for people to buy their first house in London, is called Help to Buy. That aims to help any first-time buyer get on that property ladder and buy a place in London. But there are quite a few requirements. So because property in the capital is so incredibly expensive, the government are agreeing to help you out for at least the first 5 years using Help to Buy. You're required to put 5% of the value of your home down for a deposit and mortgage the remaining 55%. Now, you might not have gotten an A star or a 1 or whatever it is these days, a 9, I don't know, in the maths GCSEs, but you might realize 5 plus 55, well, that's 60%. What happened to the remaining 40? The UK government picks that up for you. They say, you know what? We'll take 40% of the value of your home, 5 years, interest-free. You only have to mortgage the other 55%. That's pretty great. If you're outside London, it's only 20%. Because, you know, they basically give out homes like candy up there, I've heard in the north. But yeah, in London, you get 40% of that value taken care of. Sounds sweet, in a way. But like I said, the government is lending you that 40%, and after 5 years, well, that interest-free cozy life you've been living, it's gonna go back up 1.75%, and I believe in line with the consumer price index. So just be aware that it's not like that 40% just disappears, it's just kind of kicking the can down the road a bit, but if you understand the point of the scheme, it does help you get on the ladder. So even if that doesn't really necessarily work out in the future for you, well, you've now gotten yourself on the ladder. So I mean, at least you're not paying rent anymore. Another stipulation, you must be a first-time buyer, which is a good rule, I say. That's to prevent any more landlords from snatching up properties and leeching off of a system inherently flawed in their favor to do what they refer to as a thankless job. Now that I think about it though, I've never actually met anyone that has ever thanked their landlord. So hey, let me be the first to start. A thank you to my current landlord. Thank you very much, Nikos, for opportunely buying this property up as a way to profit off the broken system and force the rest of society into the indentured servitude of never-ending rent payments. Also, thank you for never fixing the moth problem we've complained about for over 3 years. And like I said, such a thankless job. I hope the £61.2 million that your company has in the bank helps you sleep at night. Thank you so much for doing everything you do. Another stipulation of the Help to Buy scheme for London is that it must be a new build. So any property that was built prior to 2018, as of the filming of this video, is off the market for you. That's only available for Gen X's, boomers, and any of the other top 1% that happen to be born at the right time. If you are interested in buying a place that isn't a new build skyscraper, possibly is a nice little home on the outskirts of London, well, the government had a scheme called the Go Back in Time scheme, where you just go back 25 years to a time when the Bank of England wasn't artificially inflating the prices of all the property values, leading us all to live in this capitalistic hellscape in which people born after 1985 pay an age tax essentially to live in the city that they want to live in. Well, that did exist, but sadly, I can't find any more information on it. It seems like, yeah, that scheme's closed now, so shame. All right, it's very important for me to note that even though you can buy a home up to £600,000 on the London Help to Buy, there is a bit of a sour spot in between 500 and 600,000. That's to do with the stamp tax. If you guys don't know what stamp tax is, it's basically like a land tax put on by the government with increasing fees based on the value of your home in a tiered system. Similar to how once you start making over a certain amount of money income-wise, threshold, you go into different tiers and pay more money. Now, there has been a stamp duty holiday recently to encourage first-time buyers, and so if you'd actually bought prior to last month and your home was under 500,000, you didn't have to pay anything, which is pretty great. Now, there is a small amount. I think you get the first £300,000 tax-free off of it, hurrah. However, after September, only the first £125,000 value of your home is tax-free. So it's not great. Basically, the way it currently works is, I have it written down here, if your home is valued at £500,000, you've got to pay £10,000 to the government, basically, just upfront within 14 days of completion. So that's just another big fee you got to work out. However, if your home is £500,001, that extra pound's going to cost you $5,000 extra because the way that the tiered system works. But hey, I don't make the rules. This is all ending in September, and it's just something you should probably be aware of. Look up stamp duty, because I didn't know about it as an American. This isn't something that I know of. Obviously, we have something similar, just different name. New Jersey has the highest property tax in the States. Yes, that's what we're proud of. That's what we're proud of. All right, so let's wrap up the London Help to Buy scheme with a quick example. You want to buy a home in London, £600,000. The government says, we'll take 40% of that off the top, $240,000, just for 5 years interest-free. You're like, all right, we'll deal with that for now. You only have to have only 5% of that as your deposit. That's £30,000. Don't forget the stamp tax. Don't forget the solicitor fees. Don't forget any of that. But just gotta have a deposit of £30,000. So what would your mortgage be in that situation? Well, you're looking at a mortgage of £330,000. Now, as of recording this video, you can roughly expect to receive about 3 to 4 times your annual salary from a bank in terms of them lending you a mortgage. So in this example, with a £330,000 mortgage, you'd be expected to be earning about £82,500 to £110,000 per year. Okay, that's not really too realistic, so now, I've done the math here. The average Londoner takes home about £40,000 a year, meaning that banks could, on average, lend them around £150,000, or the total property using the Help to Buy scheme would be around £272,000. Now, if you've ever looked in London property at that price range on Rightmove, Zoopla, or the like, you might find that for that price, well, you might get this 1-bedroom property in Deptford, with the size of the room there being the same exact width and length of your bed. I mean, I know the area doesn't scream safe, but I can assure you it does scream, okay? I can make these jokes. I'm from Deptford, New Jersey. But yeah, that's depressing. It's very depressing. All right, so we've established that the London Help to Buy scheme is kind of a bit useless, and in a way is mostly just a way for the government to, on one hand, be appearing as if they are helping out, while on the other hand, continuing to inflate the prices of the property market. All good? Now, for those 99% of us that still can't afford a home in London using the London Help to Buy scheme, fear not. Next up, we have the shared ownership scheme. Even with the government giving you 40%, that too much? Don't worry. Now you can only buy 25% of a home. You get the door and the windows. They get to keep the white goods, which is a weird British expression. Why do you say that? Microwave, fridge, just white goods? Either way, so with the London shared ownership scheme, 25% of the value of your property is what you can mortgage. Now that sounds pretty good. So if we're going back to that example of £600,000 property, 25% of that, hey, that's kind of mildly affordable, you know? Doing quick maths, £150,000. Hey, the average Londoner, £40,000, they can actually feasibly pick that up. And because the deposit is only, yet again, 5%, that is also not so bad, £15,000. So you might think, well, that's pretty reasonable. What is the catch? Well, there are a couple stipulations here. One, you have to be making under £90,000. Okay, that's good. That way we can prevent any more of these like rich Russian, Chinese oligarchs coming in, snatching up more properties and then renting them out to make more money off of the people that can't actually afford to fully get on the property ladder. That's a good stipulation. Two, even though that one is pretty okay, there's also stipulations for the minimum threshold that you can earn, because I haven't really talked about the most annoying part of shared ownership. Sure, you are only owning 25% of the property. Cool. What about the other 75%? Where's that go? Well, you're still renting. You're renting that 75%. And they did cap off the percentage that the homeowner is allowed to rent that place to you, which is nice, but you are still slightly renting. So the big negative a lot of people talk about and take away from the shared ownership is you're still renting, but it is that foot on the ladder, because you are mildly, you're owning 25% of the home. You just also have to pay the rent and also have to pay the service charge. Now, any new builds that are available, you'll know that if there's an elevator, if there's a lift, if they have any pools, any fancy facilities, there's a service charge in that. And even though you only own 25% of the home, you have to spend 100% of your money on the service charge. Now, a lot of places are around £200 to £350. So not only are you having to pay the mortgage on the 25%, you're also paying rent to the homeowner on that 75% at 3% roughly the total cost of the property, and that exorbitant, sometimes a service charge. Got to pay all those fees basically together. Oh, hey, Evan, Edinger here. It's a good pun. So I forgot to mention, I thought this was really important to talk about, but if you do choose to do shared ownership, there's this bit of a weird ground in between 40% and 100% of the house where you're just going to have a hard time selling the place. So if you do choose to staircase up, do realize that it's going to be much more difficult to sell that place on the market when it's more than 40%. Even over 25 is going to be hard, because think about the fact that someone has to be able to buy that. Someone has to be able to afford it. And most of the time, if someone can afford 40, 50%, there's a good chance they're also just going to be able to afford either a help to buy full thing or a full mortgage. So I just thought that was important to note is,
even though you can staircase, it's kind of more just like you stay at that 25, and if you really love the place, sure, staircase to 100. Otherwise, you're gonna eventually maybe sell it and then go for the full Monty. Anyway, back to the video.
Also, same rules apply as the Help to Buy scheme. It has to be a new build, so you're gonna end up in a skyscraper, most likely. And you're gonna come up with a lot of issues where the property developer will set really arbitrary values for what you cannot make under in order to afford the property. For instance, the amount of properties I've seen, especially in West London, that are like, shared ownership, you have to make under 90,000, cool, and over 85,000. Who is this for? What? Don't answer in the comments like people who make between 85,000 and 90,000. Shut up, okay? No, I genuinely believe this is just a theater thing. Again, another attempt from the government to be like, look guys, we're helping. Don't look into it, but we have a scheme to help. If it's only helping people that make between 85,000 and 90,000, that is such an incredibly minute, tiny percent of people, it just feels fake. You know, it just feels a bit fake. I've seen ones outside of London as well, where the max cap is 80,000 that say you have to make between 77 and 80,000. What's the point? What's the point? All right, quick example I've got here. Let's say a property was £500,000. You're getting it on shared ownership. That means your 25% mortgage is £125,000. You pay roughly £800 a month on that and pay £940 a month on the rent. And then don't forget the service charge, which is around £200 to £350, depending on how wanky the place is. And that means that you have an outgo of just under about £2,000 a month. Now, as we talked about, the average Londoner salary is £40,000, meaning they're bringing home roughly £2,570 after tax, which means that the ratio of how much they're spending on their living expenses and how much they're earning is a real sexy 80%, which of course doesn't meet the affordability threshold that most of these mortgage brokers allow. So it's not really an option for the average Londoner, is it? Not really. Not unless you have a big deposit. Then you can kind of offset it a little bit. Or hey, maybe you're just making more than the average Londoner, but then who is this for? Then the rich Londoner? It's just frustrating. I feel like there needs to be more schemes for people that are not even at that average amount. However, there are more schemes to talk about, just a few more, okay? Hope you're interested in this content, because I freaking am, okay? Now, you might not be the average Londoner. Let's just say you make under £40,000. You know, like 50% of... Oh, oopsie. Camera died there. But Evan, I hear you ask, I'm just an average Londoner. What am I supposed to do? I can't do Help to Buy. I can't even do shared ownership. There is one more big scheme currently available, which is really hard to find information on, and I wonder if that's on purpose. I've never met anyone that's ever heard of it. I'm always the influencer here. I'm hoping to influence some of you if you're hoping to buy in London. It's called London Living Rent. Now, if you're Welsh living in Wales, you might hear my description of this and go, hey, that's our thing. No, it's not. In London, we take things and we make it our own and pretend that they don't exist. But London Living Rent essentially allows you to rent for a living amount, right? You actually pay an amount that is a bit more fair in exchange for, at the end of the 2 to 3 year period you sign up for, you take all that money that you saved and buy a property. Hooray. You are still renting. It's kind of like if shared ownership was you own 0% and you're just renting at a reduced fee. But hey, reduced fee, can't disagree with that. There are a couple issues with this though. Like I said, it's very hard to find information about this scheme at all, except on the Mayor of London's website. 2, there's not many properties available at all. And as of recording this, right now, I think there were 4 properties, maybe 6, in the entire metropolis that is London that even qualify for this. And let's just say you want to apply for it. Well, you better hope that you just currently happen to be located in the borough that it was built, which is very frustrating because London's a big city. I'm stuck in Hounslow at the moment. You know who's building in Hounslow? I don't. Who wants to build? And so, because I don't live in like the borough of Southwark, well, I can't get that property because that's only for Southwarkers. Or sometimes they say they have priority. Okay, well also, I don't have kids and families with kids are given priority. So essentially someone like me, hey, not really a viable option. But hey, if you are living in a borough where one of these properties is available and you've got some kids, well, you're in luck. You can basically pay a reduced rent. The way that I've seen it work is you can get a 3-bedroom, some of these places, for 850 quid. For London, that's pretty much a bargain. And essentially the way it works after that is the housing developer kind of agrees with you that you're gonna be saving that money that you would have spent on the property, let's say about £500 extra a month, and at the end of the 36-year period, and then at the end of the 36-month period, you are expected to purchase that property. Now, I said expected because you are not legally required to purchase that property, but they go like, you should, but you don't have to. So I'm just saying that in terms of if you actually want to live in a real home that's not a new build apartment complex with your, children, there's an option where after you save up all this money, you then take it somewhere else. They will try and recommend you go to their developers' buildings, but you also don't have to do that. You can go anywhere you want, or you could just not buy, but really, this is meant to save up a big deposit so that you can buy somewhere, but yeah, those are the schemes available. Now, there is another scheme that I've seen in London called immediate rent, which, yet again, really hard to find information on. Essentially, this scheme involves you getting a really centrally located flat for a lot cheaper than you'd expect. So I've seen some in King's Cross for £900 for one bed. Whoa! For King's Cross? That's a bargain. But in exchange, nothing. You just pay cheaper rent for a central location, and I guess that helps you save up? Is £900 helping someone save up to buy a house? Hey, you tell me, at least you live central, I guess. And hey, I haven't even mentioned how 9 times out of 10 when you're buying one of these new builds using any of these schemes, you don't own the land that the building's on, and so no matter how much of that home you eventually own, you will be perpetually paying a tax to the guy that owns the land under the building, which can increase over time, so. London. Now, as for me, I'm probably gonna end up with a shared ownership flat. That's just, I think, where my life's taken me. That's kind of what I can afford. I'm hoping to get approved for a mortgage, and do I want to live in a high-rise flat in East London? No. Am I gonna end up in a high-rise flat in East London? Yeah, probably. I've lived in the north, I've lived in the west, I've lived in the south. I don't know my cardinal directions, but hey, I'm going east. Evan Eastinger, that's what you'll call me. Hopefully you'll be along for this journey as I build out my workspace office and my YouTube studio, and I'm very excited for all this as a creator. But as a creator, you might have realized throughout this whole video, there is music. Music is a very important thing as a creator to make the feelings the way you want them to. Sound effects. That was a fun one. I made it up myself. But usually if I don't make up my own sound effects, I use Epidemic Sound. I use them for about 3.5 years. Today's video sponsor. They are very, very great. They have an incredibly giant library. I've never not found the song I was looking for in Epidemic. They're all professionally made. They sound incredibly good. Sound effects, music, beautiful. And also, in my past, when I'd just reach out to different people and get consent and try and get free music, the amount of times that those people would, after a couple years, claim me caused so many headaches. I can't do anything with that now. No. Epidemic has literally just filled that hole perfectly of really high quality music, whatever I need right there. And if you sign up with my affiliate link in the description, well, you can get 1 month for free. And if you use any Epidemic songs for that entire month and then you don't continue it, you still have the rights to those for those videos, which is just so incredibly useful. And honestly, that's why I've used them for so long. It's just a really good company with a really good selection. So thank you, Epidemic Sound, for sponsoring this video. And hey, hopefully I'll see you guys on the next one, or you can watch this video where I talked about the pros and cons of living in London. That one's pretty good. Or I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye. It is absolutely pissing down. Oh my God. I'm gonna go to the gym today. Gonna run through that. Wow. London summer. All right, gonna buy a house here.